Hey guys, ThunderClan Gaming here, bringing you an in-depth Necro guide. Currently this is my the team that I use. This is my safe team. It clears in around like 2.5 to 3 minutes usually. And yeah, let's go through the Lich King skills, and we shall talk about how to counter the skills. We will try to understand his kit, and yeah, let's get started. So the first thing is called Exploit Soul. Basically, he attacks everyone and then recovers 50% damage as HP. And the longer the fight takes, the more damage it will do. So the more he uses that skill, the more damage he will do. You can see in a bit when I start playing, and it will say Exploit Soul +1, Exploit Soul +2. That means that's the amount of times you use that skill, and then the more it goes, the higher damage it will do. Okay, so second one is called Imprisoned Soul. Basically what it does is it chooses the target that dealt the most damage to it and then takes it to his side, and then basically that unit will be gone from your rotation, and then will start fighting for Lich King until you kill it, and then it will come back at around like half HP, and you can control that unit again. So the third skill is a passive where attack speed of all allies and enemies are suppressed and cannot exceed a certain cap, and attack bar reduction does not work. So basically this means that Verd and Hua are Verd passive and Hua passive are useless here. You can still use Hua here for the slow and dots and damage, but yeah, I think pretty much the slow cap is rumored to be 130. So basically, if you want to ruin your monsters for Necro, make them around 130, and then it won't exceed the cap, and so basically you won't waste stats, plus you won't be too slow to move in the first place. The next one is called Soul Barrier. Basically, what it does is, if you can see here, it's 7. That means you need 7 hits in total to break the shield, and once you break the shield, you can start doing damage and landing debuffs on the boss. And also, the damage that you do to the boss, 30% of it will decrease the boss's maximum HP. So yeah, again, the faster you clear the dungeon, the safer it is. And finally, the last skill is, when he dies, he will be revived at 50%. Basically, it's revives at 50% of his maximum health, and if you do damage through the boss and reduce his maximum HP, he will be revived at a lesser HP compared to if, say, it's impossible, but let's say he died at full HP, and then he will revive at 50%. If he died at 70% HP, then he will revive at 35% HP, and so on and so forth. So yeah, let's get started. I'll start pressing play, and then I'll explain to you what you need to counter this boss. So first of all, you need enough multi-hits to break the shield. That's the most important part. If you don't break the shield, you won't land any debuffs, you won't do damage to the boss. Therefore, it's always good to bring enough multi-hitters. 7 hits is actually not that much if you make some specific units for this scenario. Second of all, you need someone who lands slow. I'll actually go through all the useful debuffs that you can land on the boss. So one thing is slow. That's the most important one. You want to land slow because you want the boss to move less. And if the boss moves less, there will be less chance that he can take some of your units. There will be less chance that he can get his revive, pass it off, and there will be less chance for him to use his first skill, which increases damage every time he uses it. So you prefer that the unit who has slow is on his first skill. So things like Rigel, Fuko, Hua, Run, and all of these stuff. Basically, first skill is always good because there's no cooldown, so the AI will derp a little bit less. And since Fuko and Rigel only have 2 skills, and with the second one being on a huge multiplier, the slow and second skill armor break are all pretty good here. So I strongly recommend Fuko or Rigel if you have some skill ups on them. Make sure to use them here because they're really, really good for this dungeon. Anyway, so if you don't have skill ups, you can bring 2 monsters that have slow. Basically, let's say you have a not max skill Hua or Run. That's a skill on a slow on skill 1, but then you can bring Argon. Argon's kit is pretty good here because he can land a lot of debuffs. He does damage proportionate to the opponent's debuffs at the on the boss. And yeah, first skill is also a multi-hit, so it's like pretty okay. And he also has a slow on his second skill, which kind of helps a little bit if Hua is unable to land her own slow. And yes, okay, next up is, I think the second most important debuff is Unrecoverable. So the reason why I think Unrecoverable is very important is since the boss leeches health, if you land Unrecoverable on the boss, he will not be able to leech any health. And if that happens, then like half of his first skill is kind of like gone. And then it's a lot easier to take down the boss because he has low health all the time. And yeah, that's my reasoning behind it. And the other pretty good debuff is attack debuff. Again, the boss will do damage to you and then he'll gain some HP back. So if you land attack debuff, then he can't gain that much HP back if you didn't land Unrecoverable. And that's always a good thing. So basically that points out to 2 very good monsters for Necro. One is Colleen and one is Adrian. Dots work on Necro boss as long as you break the shield. And another reason why Adrian is extremely good is his third skill, the speed buff. So basically speed buff bypasses the speed cap. Let's say the speed cap is 130. If you bring a speed buff and all your units are on 130, your unit's speed will actually exceed 130. And couple that with landing slow on the boss, basically you'll be moving a lot more than the boss does. Okay, I'll keep this one because it has speed on it. And let's go to the next part. For the debuffs, I said Unrecoverable, slow, and attack debuff. I forgot one thing that is still extremely important that people might forget about. It's armor break. If you don't have armor break, you're not going to do damage to the boss. That's a fact. And the most popular armor breakers for this dungeon is Fire Panda and Bella. I also think Wind Panda is very, very good at dealing damage. However, there's always a chance of him getting stolen. And if he gets stolen, your team will have a hard time killing him and bringing him back, and he might counter and then land armor break on all of your team, and basically the boss will kind of like do an AoE and kill your whole team. That's a very possible scenario. Therefore, I still think that the Fire Panda and Bella are the best picks here. Okay, so what's next? One more thing to mention about speed buff and speed in general is that basically having high speed is definitely never a bad thing. Even though it's wasted on the boss, you can still have high speed and make your first four stages a lot safer. One of the major reasons why I wipe is sometimes on third stage. The Dark Yeti lands armor break on one of my attackers, and then basically my Bella chose to kill the 2 golems on the side. The mini boss will gain attack if an ally dies, so he gains attack, and then he kills my attacker in one shot. Like basically, if you're faster, you can kind of kill the 2 golems on the side, even if Bella chooses to hit them, and then you can land attack debuff on the mid boss and like slow and all of that stuff. So the faster you are, the safer it is for your first 4 stages, even though it's capped on the last stage. One more thing to mention is that the attack bar increase and decrease is blocked by the boss. Basically, it's useless for the boss stage. However, you can still kind of use Hua in the first 4 stages. She's good there because she provides a bit of safety, and she'll slow and attack bar reduce the mini boss, and it will make the run a lot more smoother if you choose to use her. Ran is the same idea. Her last skill has attack bar decrease. Okay, so a few more things to mention. This is a bit more advanced. I already explained pretty much the whole concept of the boss and what to bring against him. So this thing is called balance your elements. So there are some monsters that just do a lot of damage in general. For example, Fuko. So how do you, like, the boss will take him, of course, right? And then how do you counter that? Well, let's say if the boss takes Fuko, then your team should be fire type, and then it makes it easy to kill the Fuko. Let's say I bring my entire team of Xihua, Bella, Colleen, Adrian, and Rigel. I can promise you that I will fail a lot of runs, because if Rigel gets taken, Rigel will wreak havoc on my team because I'm not able to kill him fast enough. And then the boss will just do his AoE, and then everyone who got armor broken will take a lot of damage, and it's really hard to recover from that. And okay, so yeah, balance out your elements. You can either do a fire team with a wind damage dealer, so that it's easier to kill the wind damage dealer when the boss takes him. But however, you have to make sure that the fire damage dealer do not kill your wind damage dealer when the fire damage dealer gets taken. I remember that one of my guildies used a Ciara, and at that time she failed a lot because Ciara will sometimes go crazy and then kill her, like, half her team. So remember that threat is always good, but you kind of want to balance out your team's damage so that everyone does a bit of damage, but not that much. This is for beginners, okay? So if like people with late game runes who use Lucian here are a different thing. This is only for beginners. Okay, so I have 2 more things that I need to say. One is how to ruin your monsters for this one. Personally speaking, I prefer all multi-hitters on Violent Revenge, simply because of the fact that the more violence you get, the easier it is to get rid of the boss shield. And then if you get rid of the boss shield, the fight only started. Therefore, if you have revenge on, sometimes you get lucky procs and stuff, and then you can break the shield faster, and then you can make your run faster. There are people who use triple revenge. I personally never tested that out, but I can imagine it working. I've also seen some people's videos on it, and it does actually work. But I just like Violent Revenge, especially on Colleen and Fuko. Yes. Finally, I want to talk about speed tuning. So for my team, what I want to do is make my multi-hitters move first, and then make Fuko move last. Simply because of the fact that Fuko lands slow, so I want slow to stick on the boss. So I have to make sure that all my multi-hitters kill the boss's shield. And basically my speed tuning is that Colleen goes first, then Bella, then Adrian, then Xihua, then Fuko. By the time that Xihua moves, most likely the shield is already broken, and Xihua sometimes will land branding, and that's very important and very good here because it fastens up my runs. Again, you want your multi-hit to go first, and then you want your slow to go last. Ideally speaking, my Adrian should move faster than my Bella, because speed buff give everyone speed buff, but my Bella's on some PvP runes, so she has some speed. Well, I don't want to waste that many resources on my Adrian, so I made my Adrian slower. However, I still made my Adrian faster than Xihua and Fuko, which I think is pretty good. Yeah, I think that's about it for my guide on Necro. I'll show you my runes. I'm going to say that basically everyone's runes are pretty trash, but I can still pass, simply because of the concepts I explained. Okay, let's start. So this is Xihua. She's on Violent Revenge, attack, 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 with plus 12 runes. And this is Colleen. She's a bit better in terms of runes because I use her for raid 5. Violent Revenge, speed, HP, with 1 of the runes are not maxed. And next up is Adrian. Adrian is Violent Revenge, attack, curate, attack. None of them are maxed at all, and I pretty much rune attack curate slot 4 for him because I want his first skill to land 3 hits instead of 2, because it only hits 3 times if you crit. Next up is Bella. I don't really need to show Bella's runes, it just looks like this. It's like violent focus, speed, HP. Nothing much, nothing special. And finally is Fuko. Look at those runes. Can you see how trash it is? Yeah, he always gets taken. He gets taken very often, simply because of his kit is good in Necro and he will do a lot of damage. I didn't even dare to max his skill 2 because I didn't want him to use armor break more than his slow, even though it does a lot more damage. So yeah, he's on Violent Revenge, attack, crit damage, attack. With Adrian buff, he'll have like 92% crit rate, but if you look at his stats, it looks like attack, crit damage, HP, but it's actually attack, crit damage, attack. So my point of showing you their runes is that if you can understand the concept of this dungeon and you have enough Violent Revenge runes, it's not too early to enter this phase. When you craft your team, you want to make sure your debuffs are there, you want to make sure multi-hits are there, you want to make sure you have attack buff and speed buff, and that's about it. You don't need top tier runes to do Necro as a beginner. My runes are crap, and then I can still do it in a 2 to 3 minute range. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.